Now to a Kelly File exclusive. The ACLU has been actively involved in nationwide efforts that allow transgender men and transgender women to use restrooms that coincide with their gender identities. But the head of the organization's Georgia chapter has just resigned. Dillard Smith says the rights of non-trans women and children, including her own, are not being fairly considered. And she joins me now. Maya, good to see you. So what was the catalyst that made you leave your post as the head of the Georgia ACLU?
Well, you know, I was really excited when the Georgia ACLU recruited me from California to arrive in the state that I think has enormous potential to advance civil liberties and civil rights in the American South. And it became very evident to me that the ACLU and myself were simply principally and philosophically unaligned on a number of issues. And I found myself at the crux of the transgender rights and transgender bathroom controversy.
And it's not an anti-trans thing. I mean, you say you actually were looking forward to learning more. You didn't know a lot about it, but you had an incident that gave you a lot of pause.
That's correct. Before my recruitment to Georgia in my native California, the Bay Area where I'm from, I took my young daughters, I've got 3 daughters, I took the youngest 2 into a women's restroom, a public women's restroom, and shortly after we were in, entered 3 transgender young adults, all over 6 feet, all with really deep voices, all obviously men, and my children were visibly frightened. I was very uncomfortable, and it engendered a lot of questions from my daughters for which I was ill-prepared to answer. And so since my arrival at the ACLU, I have been actively seeking out information and asking questions, as simple as we advance, as there is an effort to advance transgender rights, what are the implications on the rights of women and girls? What are the implications on the rights of parents?
And I think it's interesting because you say you are open-minded. You've been public that you had an incident in your own past that has made this a particularly difficult issue for you, that you feel vulnerable when exposed in a restroom. But you're open-minded. You want more information, and yet you felt like the ACLU was not open-minded.
I certainly felt like there is not an opportunity to have robust discourse on the competing civil rights that are implicated not only in the context of bathrooms and the advancement of transgender rights, but even in the context of religious refusal bills, which you've seen across the country. You know, there being a very narrow conversation between LGBT equality and religious freedom, but in the HB 757 in Georgia, as well as HB 2 in North Carolina, there are lots of implications for all other category of protected classes of people.
It's interesting. And you're a Democrat, but you have differing viewpoints, and you want to sort of be able to have there be room for a discussion of those as we take a look at what our civil liberties actually stand for. We're not finding the forum in the ACLU. It's a fascinating story, Maya. Thank you for being so honest about it and coming on.